which is solving equations by adding or subtracting. So solving.
He's timing himself.
Nice. Wait, did you just have it on the border here?
Yes, I do. Adding.
Why are you
Or
timing yourself?
actually, I'm recording it. Subtracting.
Also, if we do anything bad,
No, actually, it's not for that. It's more for. I have a diabolical plan. We're going to start out with like little steps. We're going to have an equation, figure out how do you solve for a variable. How do you solve for a variable when they added or subtracted something to it? So the first step is we're working towards something like this. I wouldn't write it down, but x minus 4 equals 20. And a lot of you can look at it in your head and right now know that x has to be
16.
Some of you can look at it, and in your head you know that x has to be, what minus 4 gives you 20? 24. So we have this problem here, and the answer is going to be x equals 24. I'm going to go through and, our book starts out with this, starts out fairly simple, but I want to really put an emphasis on the steps. And you're going to see in the homework is going to have, do this number to this number, and it'll have this little S, Y, W, F, C. And what that stands for is the show your work for credit. So for those, if you're not showing your steps, you're going to get marked down. And I'm kind of talking about this out of order, but the steps that I'm looking for are going to be something like this. 1, write the original equation like this right here. 2, write down what you do to both sides. And then 3, write down the answer. And it goes back to inverses. You guys remember talking about inverses in the last chapter? Inverses previously, whenever that was. And we said, well, inverses undo something. And use the example of, I could give somebody money. So say I give somebody $20, and then if I take away $20, you're going to be right back where you started. So adding 20, subtracting 20, those are inverses. They'll undo each other. So what we do in solving these, and this is really the short version of the notes, so maybe write a little bit soon, is that if you look at what was done to x, we had an x value, they took away 4, and that got us to 20. Well, the inverse of taking away 4, if you want to undo taking 4 away, is to do what? Add 4. So then what we could do here is write plus 4 on the left, plus 4 on the right. So if we have our x minus 4, but we added 4, the minus 4 and plus 4 just cancel out, giving us this x value right there. The 20 plus 4 gets us down to 24. So we know that then the x has to equal 24. Good? Now, the show your work for credit is a little bit annoying, especially if you have nice numbers like this, because you can look at it and just say, well, here's the answer. The reason I'm asking you to do it is this. Go back, I don't know how many years, a bunch of years ago, I'm doing Algebra 2, and often you get people in a math class that struggle. And I had one guy in my math class that was really struggling. A lot of times the people that struggle in math, at least at my old school, you guys have had a lot more practice doing stuff in your head than they had. So I was used to the people that do worse in Algebra 2 are the ones that are more likely to, with their calculator, they're doing like 7 plus 2. They quick get their calculator and punch it in. They're just kind of bad all around at math. And I'm working after school with this guy named Dave. And so he's not doing real well in Algebra 2 class. And so I was kind of expecting him to be like that as we're working together, he's getting out his calculator to do these simple math problems. And instead it was actually totally the opposite of it, that he's doing math in his head faster than I can. And not just things like adding or subtracting, but he's like squaring numbers and then doing something to it. It's like 14 squared minus 27. He's like, and spits out the answer. It's like, what? It's like normal people in high school don't do that. And so it's like, how can you be doing so poorly in my Algebra 2 class, and you're like this human calculator, better than like I've seen in years. And what it came down to is back in, when he started doing algebra, he was smart enough, because he was saying, well, I used to be really good at math. Well, he'd get things like this, he'd just look at it and say, well, the answer is 24, because 24 minus 4 is 20. And then the next section that we do in the book is going to get a little bit harder. They're going to start doing x divided by 4 equals, 27. And some of you would look at that and say the answer is going to be
9.
108 divided by 4 gives you 27. He'd be like, oh, it's 108. And then, so you start giving people like that and then plus 2. It's like, okay, so then he could look at it, he could figure out this stuff in his head. So because he just look at it and give you the answer, he never learned the little steps that we're going to learn today. He never learned that if they subtract 4, you add 4. So that's my whole reason for doing the show your work for credit, so that you learn the steps now. So because he got to high school, and the teachers don't bother teaching the steps again, because you've had it in 7th grade, you've had it in 8th grade, you've had it in 9th grade, so Algebra 2 comes, you just kind of hit the ground running, and he had never learned the steps, so when we start throwing in exponents and stuff, he was just kind of left behind. Good? So that's kind of my justification. You guys did this last year, right? So I kind of figured I could do a shorter version for you guys than what I did for my other class. What I said for my other class was look at what was done to the variable, then do the inverse to both sides. And we're going to kind of get like more notes on this as we go. Actually, I guess that's mostly off the screen anyway. So if you want to write that down, you can. Maybe I'll quick scribble it down here. So to solve for a variable. And we're going to kind of have like official steps that we kind of put in the next couple of days. But for now, we'll just say, look at, does it lag behind? Maybe I skip it. If it gets annoying, then just stop me, and I'll write it on the board. But look at what was done to the variable. It's the wireless is slow here at school. So look at what was done to the variable, and then do the inverse. Do the inverse. But you have to do it to both sides of the equation. And the book talks a lot about it kind of like looking like a balance. If you can picture in like science class having those like pan balances. I don't know if you've used them here. The 7th graders seem to kind of recognize it, but you have like something like this, and there's like the bar that goes to each side, and probably like a little dial or something. But then if you take and put weight on both sides, if it's equal, they're going to be hanging at the same heights, right? Then if you take and add like 5 pounds, well maybe not 5 pounds, you add 50 grams to the left side, that side's going to go down. Well, if you want it to be balanced again, you have to add 50 to the right side, agreed? Or if you take something off of one side, that side goes up. If you take the same amount off the other side, it'll be equal again. But that's kind of like what the book uses to kind of explain it. So let's go through, do some examples, and I think that's going to help. So my first example, I tried to pick some that are a little bit harder to do in your head. So we'll just do 2 examples and probably wrap it up, maybe 3. If I do an x minus 14 equals 37. So you look at what was done to x, they took 14 away from it, agreed? So if you want to undo taking away 14, you would just add 14. You do the inverse. Maybe I should have said the inverse of subtracting 14 is to add 14, which then you get x. The minus 14, the plus 14 cancel. X is going to be 51. Good? And that has like the first, the second, kind of the third thing I'm looking for as I check your homework. If I were to try to do a different one, we could throw in, I'll try to throw in like both like tricks that I was going to do at one time. Or maybe I'll do 2 separate ones. So, okay. X plus 14.2 equals 23.8. So that one's going to be a little bit tougher to do in your head. Nice. That we had an x, they added 14.2 to it, so we subtract that. That's a little tougher to do in my head, at least. So, but my 14.2s are going to cancel because it's added that and then subtracted it. 23 minus that. Anyone? 9.6. Nice job. 9.6. And what I should be doing, it's a little dangerous to wait and just try it on the test, but it would be wise to take your calculator, have this 9.6, put it back in for the variable. And you can get done with a quiz and know that you had everyone right if you do 9.6 plus 14.2 equals, and then see does it give you 23.8. If it gives you something different, go back and check your work. Either you checked it wrong or you just got the wrong answer. Fair enough? Very last one, then I'll turn you loose. So R minus 91 equals 63. Yeah, it's just the delay of the wireless signal to there, which maybe will be fixed soonish. We'll see. If it doesn't work, we just skip it. So they subtracted 91. We have to add 91, which then gives us R equals, nice, 154. And if you're not sure, you could check your answer. You could say 154 minus 91, punch that in the calculator, and see that it should equal 63. So, any questions?